Welcome to In the News for July 16, 2021. I'm Brett Burney from Apps and Law.
And I'm Jeff Richardson from iPhone JD. Brett, we're at episode 10. We're at 2 digits. Woo!
2 digits, double digits. I
Next
love
thing
it.
You know, it'll be double, triple digit. Well, maybe a couple years from now, but it didn't take too long to get the double
We're on our
digits.
way. We're on our way. All right. So if there's one thing about iPhone users, we always could use just a little more power. I loved your first paragraph here in the news in the post you had today, Jeff, talking about the announcement, something we kind of expected Apple to do, right? We got this beautiful, I don't even have a MagSafe on there because, you know, you could see the telltale circle that would be on there. But they finally came out with not just a battery, it's a magnetic battery for the MagSafe.
Yeah. In fact, it's funny because Apple doesn't normally introduce new products in the middle of the summer. It's usually pretty quiet. And yet here we know, this has been long rumored to come out. I don't use a lot of MagSafe stuff. I mean, I have a Apple leather case. I don't have it with me today, but for my iPhone 12. And I mean, technically it's MagSafe because when you attach it, it's got a little magnet. It'll show you on the screen, ding, you've been attached. Not that anybody needs a ding to tell you that you're attached to a case. But I usually don't use MagSafe charging that much because it's slower than using a cord. But if there is one instance that I think MagSafe makes perfect sense, oh my goodness, this is it.
Yes.
This little battery, it looks like it is just this tiny, small little thing. You just slap it on the back and you get some extra power. And the thing is, normally, I mean, especially in the pandemic where many of us have been home, you don't necessarily, you're not that far from an outlet. But when you start getting out into the real world, there are times when you're using your phone a lot to take video, and that can really drain the battery. Or, you're in a place where the internet is congested, a busy place like Disney World or even just the beach or something like that. And your battery does, when your phone works harder to get a cell phone signal, it has a serious effect on battery life.
That's right.
So having like a little battery that you could give extra power, it's often useful to have, or you're in a day-long CLE and you're not close to a power thing. But this looks like a great solution because it looks like, I mean, we haven't seen reviews yet. We'll see that soon. Because it comes out a week from today. But it looks like it's tiny and light and rounded at the corners. So you could just slip it in your pocket. And then when you need it, you just slap it on and get some power. We don't know exactly how much power it has. One of the articles I linked to suggests that it's the pack is probably about the same amount of power as an iPhone 12 or maybe 12 mini. But of course, when you use MagSafe to charge wirelessly, it's very inefficient. It loses a lot of the energy to heat. So you're not going to get 100% of the power. So maybe it gives you just a couple more hours, but that's still great for something so small. And, something to keep in mind, now these are $100, so you don't want to buy too many of them, but, in theory, you could buy two. You could have one in your pocket and one in your briefcase or purse. And if for some reason you're having like this super intense day of using power, just take one off and put it in the other one. But one more thing I'll say, but before I let you go, is I love that unlike Apple's previous solutions where the battery was part of the case, and then you get a new iPhone and it's useless. This, I presume MagSafe's going to stick around for a while. So if you get one for this iPhone, I feel fully confident it's going to work with the iPhones this fall and the next fall and the next fall. So it's not that bad of an investment. I think this is going to be a hit.
I almost think of it as like this is certainly not the primary charger, right? This is not something I would keep on there.
Agreed.
Because I know that this is what's going to charge it up. But it's almost, I call it the top off, right? It's almost like, okay, I'm out. I know I'm not going to get home to the office. I'm driving around running some errands, but I got to make this phone call, and so I can just slap this on because, like you said, it looks like it's going to be very easily slip into your pocket. I don't know how heavy it's going to be. They may have already said that. It is available for pre-order now. Like you said, it'll start getting delivered here in a couple of weeks. I like our friend David Sparks. He says it comes in any color that you want as long as you want white.
Yeah,
that's
a little
as
curious.
Long as that color wants white.
Apple loves white stuff, and I guess it's a good place to start. I suspect that if this product is popular, we'll see more colors in the future. But I guess white's not a bad color. It probably goes well with all the different color iPhones you can have. So.
Well, like you said, I think we'll see some more colors. It's just this is fairly typical Apple that we kind of see. They come out with the first iteration of it, and then if it gets popular, people start using it. I absolutely would see that they would come out with colors that would match sort of the iPhone, and they could probably sell to the same people that bought the first iteration. They would buy the colored versions on there as well, which is really fantastic. Now, David, also, go ahead.
Say it's interesting that it looks like this is the first Apple product that actually can charge both ways. So not only can it provide power to your iPhone, but if you plug in the lightning cord to the bottom of your iPhone, it will charge not only your iPhone, but also this external battery. Or you could plug into the battery itself if you use one of the high-powered chargers, and it will charge the battery and the iPhone at a faster rate. I mean, again, once these things are in the real world, that's why I didn't buy one yet, although I think that one of these might be in my future. But I want to read the reviews if people, I mean, I'm not going anywhere urgently in the next week or two. I want to see what others say, but I think this it could have some really interesting things going on with it.
Yeah. Now, it's also, it should be needless to say, but just to make sure everybody's on the same page, you do have to have at least iOS 14.7, and MagSafe is only available in iPhone 12s, right?
Yes.
It's not in 11. So ones. Exactly, the very newest iPhone. So if you have an older iPhone, here's what they say up here at the top of Mac Rumors. Is a great article you link to: the iPhone 12, the 12 mini, the 12 Pro, and the 12 Pro Max. So just make sure it's not for everyone. This is only going to be, the MagSafe only came out in the iPhone 12. So if you have an older iPhone, you won't be able to get it yet, but maybe it's a good excuse to upgrade to a new iPhone.
But my guess is like 5 years from now, Brett, I think all iPhones are going to have MagSafe. And at that point, this product may be on its second generation. And
absolutely.
And yeah.
Now, David links to a, quote, less expensive MagSafe friendly solution. He likes this one from Anker. And I know you like some Anker products as well, right? I mean, all of us are carrying around some kind of an extra battery. It almost gets to the point where it's a little annoying for me sometimes because I probably have 3 or 4. I can't remember which one is charged and which one's not, which is why sometimes I like these little LEDs, you know, that show you how much of a charge is on it. And by the way, I think that the MagSafe one from Apple will, once you connect it to your phone, it'll tell you how much charge it has in it, right? On the phone itself. But obviously things like Anker and third parties solutions won't be able to do that in the same way. Anyway, David likes this Anker one. This is a magnet. I don't know if it's got a picture here where, it attaches to the back of the iPhone 12. I think there's a connection that you can do a USB-C, so if you need a cable in there. But you like some other Anker products as well. Yeah,
I'm a fan of Anker. I mean, this one you're showing right now, although it also attaches to the back, it doesn't look like it's got the same sort of sloped edges. This looks more bulky to me, whereas in the pictures, the Apple one looks more seamless and like I wouldn't mind having it on the back. Again, we'll see when we see them in real life. But as you say, Anker, I mean, there's a million companies out there making battery charging products for the iPhone and iPad, but I'm a big fan of Anker because they're pretty good price stuff and it's pretty good quality. One of them that I use, you've got it on the screen here. I mean, I basically have I have a number of charging options, but if I had to recommend just 2, here's the ones that I'm using the most.
Okay.
First, I think it's good to have something that's a small, big battery that's easy to carry around. You can slip in a briefcase or purse. And this one right here called the Anker PowerCore 10,000, which I reviewed not too long ago. It's nice because it uses USB-C, which means it can send out the power faster than just lightning. And with 10,000 of milliamps or whatever,
10,000.
It's
more
enough
power.
That not only could it totally charge your iPhone a couple times, but you can even get like a good bit of a charge of an iPad. When I wrote this review, somehow I put in there how many iPads. But I mean, this is a great one to have if you're just in a deposition or in a meeting somewhere using your iPad and you're not going to have easy access to power, but you know you're going to drain your iPad in the afternoon when your iPad's running low. You could plug this thing in and get yourself topped off. So I like it that it's small. It's got a lot of power in it. That's great. The other thing, Anker product that I like is, and they've had these for years, they're called the PowerPorts. And there's many different types of them. The one that that you're showing right now is the PowerPort Plus 5 ports USB-C. I like it because it has both regular USB and USB-C. But here, the conceit of this product is it's a small box and it's got a cord that's, a couple feet long so that you can, in a hotel room or wherever, you can plug one end into whatever outlet you find, which of course is always going to be in an awkward location behind a lamp or somewhere not easy to get to. And then this cord stretches out to like the top of a tabletop or a nightside bedstand, whatever. And then you put this on there and it's got a bunch of different ports. So you can plug in, if you want something charged faster, through USB-C, it's got that, so you can charge your iPhone or your iPad faster, but it's also got regular USB charging, so you could charge, your Apple Watch overnight, you could charge your phone, your spouse's phone, etc. So I love this for travel. I also like it for meetings. I mean, if you are going to have access to an outlet in a meeting, it's nice that you can plug this in and you can plug in a couple different things. You can even have some extra with a friend. I've been in an airport before where I was trying to charge, and I'm sitting next to somebody who is, of course, using the outlet, right?
Right.
But I just asked them, would you mind if I plug this thing in?
Right.
Because it's got 5 ports, and therefore you can, plug your iPhone into one of them, and I can plug mine in too, and we can sort of both use the same port.
Share the power love.
Share the love of power. So those 2 battery solutions for me are like just about all that I need. I've got a bunch of other ones too that sometimes I have, but if I had to pick 2, one that's completely portable, carry it around, and one that you can plug in and charge a bunch of things at once, that's what I use. So what about you, Brett? Right. What do you use?
Yeah. Well, I was just going to quickly say I'm a big fan of the Anker products as well. And I don't know exactly what this little IQ symbol was, but I remember back, when there was a little bit of different power necessary for the iPhone versus an iPad, that this would intelligently power up or down however it needed to. I don't know much more beyond that.
Yeah, that is important. Apple's chargers do this too. You don't want something that doesn't need a lot of power, like an Apple Watch, getting too much power to it. And in theory, a cheap third-party one that's just made cheaply, in theory, could deliver too much power and damage the electronics. So you want something that sort of knows how much power is being drawn and only provides that much power. Apple's chargers have always done that. Anker does it with the IQ. So
or they call it Power IQ or something. Anyway, I just know I like to see that little symbol on there, and that's something that I've always looked at. And it just, I don't have to think about it, and how big or small a brick that I need. This is one brick that basically can intelligently power up or down as however that you need it. I will tell you, from my standpoint, one of the things that I've always looked at, because again, I'm just a little odd on this, but it's only because I'm typically always going to be charging an iPhone or an iPad. So in the past, I only needed a lightning connector, right? So for some of the banks, like this is kind of that similar to your big battery aspect that we have. I like to try to find some that are kind of I call them an all-in-one solution. Not only does it have the cable built in, the lightning cables. You can see this is the Mophie Power Station. This article has several of them, but I also like them if they have the power prongs built into the charger as well. Now, that's again, nice. This isn't, it is, and I like it, and I travel with a couple of these. In fact, I have one of an older one. In fact, let me see if I can find it real quick here, that I still travel with from another company I like a lot too. And I know you've talked about them as Rav Power. Now they make several similar things, and we've just been talking with here, but this one, let me see if I can just go into this video real quick. He's reviewing this one that I have because it's a little bit old, but I like the fact that it's a brick. It's a little heavy because it's an older one, but they're similars, but it has the cable built into it. So I can just plug it in to the iPhone or the older iPad that I have. And then on the other edge of it, it has the power prong. So I can just pull it out and plug that in to charge it. Does that make sense? In other words, it's something that there's some advantages and disadvantages. In fact, this article does a good job down here of saying, of course, you don't have to have additional cables, because sometimes I got the battery or the plug, but I don't have the cable or the right cable, or it's a different cable. So I always have that as less cable clutter, which I like. But of course, the disadvantages, he does a good job showing here. It's going to be very short. Like I typically just put the phone on top of that battery because I can't take it across the room.
Yeah, you don't have a lot of space. Yeah,
and I'm not going to be able to do something like what you were talking about in the airport. I can't share the charging love with somebody else because, it's only going to have a lightning cable. Or some of them, I know there's a couple of them that have both a lightning and a USB-C. So anyway, those are some of the ones, it's almost like we have a little tool belts that we go. Here's one that I found. I don't know this company very good, so I think it's just called Q. But you can see it's got the power prongs. It has a USB-C at the top, and it has a lightning cable on there as well, and another mini USB on there. So I carry a few of these. Again, this one, I don't know anything about it. I'm not recommending it necessarily. I just like to look for those that are kind of an all-in-one solution. It's not quite as flexible, but it certainly saves me having to carry a bunch around extra cables and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, it's great that there's just so many options. So I mean, whatever use case you're going to need, there's going to be something out there that you can use. So that's nice. I will admit, I always have in my bag just this little pouch that's got all the different cords that I could possibly use. And in fact, I still think I have some 30-pin cords there. And I've probably I certainly haven't used a 30-pin device in a long time, and I haven't encountered anybody else using one in a while too. Maybe it's time to retire that one. But but it is nice to have something that you don't need cords for. One thing I will point out is for my little the portable Anker charger that I have, you can buy, in fact, I think I bought it from Anker too, these the lightning cords that are really short. So sometimes I want to have a longer cord,
Yes.
but sometimes I
Yes.
actually want the same thing that you pointed out can be a disadvantage, which is a short cord.
Right.
And so I have a little 2-inch cord that I can plug, I can, toss that in my pocket along with the charger, and it takes no space. And if I just want to have the charger right next to my iPhone, I have that little 2-inch cord between them. So, but again, there's a million different options. The point is it's nice to have those things so that you have more flexibility.
Yeah, it's almost necessary to have. But I think I'm going to add that MagSafe Apple one, because I think I see one of those in my future as well. Yeah. Just because it's another option. Like I can just have that. I feel like that I might be even put on and even hold the phone up to my ear and kind of cradle that in the back. I don't know yet. We'll see how that goes. But anyway, good stuff. Well, from more power to more data. You had a great story in here. I didn't know that you were on AT&T as well, but it sounds like that you are. I just recently switched over to this AT&T Unlimited Elite, and I'm glad that I did a couple of months ago, because now, good on AT&T, they're kind of expanding it. Now, they call it unlimited. In fact, I like this. I think I found another Gizmodo story here, where it talks about right here. It often feels like wireless providers don't really understand the definition of unlimited, but at least AT&T is getting a little bit closer. So why don't you explain? You linked to this story from 9 to 5 Mac about how AT&T is upgrading this unlimited elite plan.
Yeah. The joke is, and one of the titles you were just showing there, is their unlimited plan is now actually unlimited. Many carriers have a plan called unlimited, but they reserve the right to throttle, which means slow down your data if you use too much. Now, I will tell you, Brett, I have never been throttled in my life.
I know.
And more importantly,
it takes
my
a lot.
son, who just devours data like it's going out of style, I don't think that, I've asked him, and he doesn't think he has been either. So this may be one of those things that they just reserve the right to do, but they don't actually do. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there are folks out there listening who have had it happen to them. But regardless, it's nice to now have an unlimited plan that is truly unlimited. So that's really nice.
Yeah.
Another thing that they've done is they've upped, I think it was from 30 gig to 40 gig, the hotspot data you have.
Right.
And that's nice because I don't have an iPad with a built-in data plan. I just don't want to have that extra expense every month.
Same, right?
Because for me, it only takes 10 seconds to connect, to tether my iPad to my iPhone if I'm out of the office or home, and then I can just use the data on my phone. But I will tell you, I have been burned in the past. I don't know if you have. The last time it happened to me was, and this is why I finally moved to an unlimited plan. A couple of years ago, I had taken my family. We had taken a vacation to Universal Studios in Florida to go see the Harry Potter stuff, because my daughter is really into Harry Potter. And we didn't have Wi-Fi at our hotel. We were supposed to, but it didn't work. And so between whatever data we used during the day, which is probably not as much, and whatever data we were using at night, I'm a couple days into the trip, where I get this little text message saying you're approaching your limit, and then
75% used.
Exactly. And before I can even do anything, like within an hour, I got one saying you're over your limit. You're over limit. And believe me, when you're at a place like Universal, you are already spending money like it's going out of style. The last thing that I needed was, and so I ended up paying, I think I paid for 2 overages, which was like $30. And at that point, I'm like, well, the price of my plan has just doubled.
Exactly.
And it's going to happen again as my kids use data more. My kids stream so much YouTube. I think that the two of them have now finished YouTube and they're on their second viewing. I'm not exactly sure, but so, why not just have unlimited data and not have to worry about it? So I moved to this right around that time, and they've changed their plans over time, but it's nice that they're getting better. It's nice that they've got more options. But this is the most expensive one. This is I think it's the $50 plan. They also have a $40 plan, which is also called unlimited, but like it doesn't stream video in quite the same quality. And then they even have a $35 plan that my daughter uses that doesn't have a hotspot, because she has no need for a hotspot. There you go. There are the different plans. So there's different options. And, I'm the only one in my family that's got Elite. My wife and son have Extra, and my daughter has Starter. But, choose whatever plan's nice for you. But it's nice to see that these unlimited plans are becoming more unlimited, even though that seems like an oxymoron.
It's so funny. I have a quick similar story to this, but I will just say I have stayed with AT&T because initially when I got my first iPhone, that's the only option that I had, right? And I think I might have been on Sprint or Verizon way back in the day before the iPhone. And I switched to AT&T simply because I wanted to use an iPhone and I knew that's where I was going to go. And I've stayed with it. For better or for worse, probably more for worse sometimes. But now I'm glad that things are getting a little bit better. If people come up to me and ask today, what's the best recommendation? I probably still say Verizon. I used to actually have a Verizon cellular plan on my iPad. Then I got rid of it for the same reason you said, didn't need it. And then I also used to carry around a little Verizon jetpack. So I had AT&T on my phone, but I had a jetpack from Verizon, which is basically just a Wi-Fi hotspot, so that I knew I could cover everything that I needed to. But I got rid of that as well. So I've been on AT&T, and in a similar story, we had to drive down for some not really a family emergency, but we had to get in the car and go pretty quick. And it was the same thing. We had to drive probably about 17-hour drive, and everybody was just burning through the data. And I got the same messages, Jeff. 50%, 75% used, 90%, you're going to be charged for overage. And at that point, I'm like, okay, I got to look. And I remember we were in the car, my wife was driving, and I just said, I got to see if I got to call, I got to try to something else. And sure enough, I switched to this. I remember in the old days, we had unlimited plans, and nobody wanted to get rid of them.
Right,
but
right.
These companies were very smart. All the carriers, they would kind of like squeeze you out of it, right? And some were grandfathered in, but then they would throttle that or something.
I forgot about that. You're right.
I'm kind of nice. I went to we had a 10 gigabyte per month plan, and that was fine, except that for exactly the same reasons we were just discussing, it got squeezed out. And I am happy to see that maybe some of this is coming back from the unlimited side. And so I'm with you. I got my wife and myself are on the Elite because we both need the hotspot sometimes and we're not together. But I think for my daughter, I got the extra because she needed a little bit more. And then my son, he just got an iPhone. And that's another reason we got pushed over, because it's like everybody's got an iPhone now. And he's on the starter plan because he doesn't need a hotspot. It's kind of the same thing. I like the flexibility on the components there.
I'll say, though, having an unlimited data plan, by the way, I have the same thing for my home internet, too, through a cable company. But, just not having to worry. I mean, that's the big thing for me is I think it works out financially better this way. In fact, I have no doubt that it does. But just I got enough of my life to worry about. I don't want to have to worry about having data overages or my kids having data overages. And then it's like, well, they're using it for something that
you don't want to police that.
Good, or do I consider them? I don't want to get into that. Just not having to worry about it is much better.
Well, I will just lastly say I got a bunch of brownie points from my wife because actually when we switched over, we got the HBO Max included, which I honestly wasn't that interested in, except apparently that's the only place you can watch the Friends reunion. So she was absolutely thrilled. Anyway, so everybody won on there.
Which was actually better than I would have
thought.
I have another recommendation on HBO Max. There's this funny show with Gene Smart called Hacks. It's hilarious. It got a whole bunch of Emmy nominations.
I've heard about that.
Absolute big thumbs up. Hacks. Worth seeing.
Yeah.
It's got to do that in Las Vegas. Very funny.
I do like the fact, just lastly quickly, that we can pick and choose on this, right? Like I've got the Elite for me and for my wife, and it sounds like you're the one, but then you can do that. So anyway, good on AT&T, and it sounds like I think The Verge reported, T-Mobile had done something similar not too long ago, and I think they even talk about it in here. It's like, hey, we're looking at you, Verizon, right? So this is how a lot of these carriers work. One company does something a little out of the ordinary, then the others follow along. So I'm glad for the competition. I'm glad to see that things are going forward on that.
You just reminded me when you put T-Mobile up there that
yes.
I think I don't think we talked about this, but I think I linked to it a few weeks ago on iPhone JD that T-Mobile recently came out with something that, how your iPhone inside of it has a SIM card slot, but then it also has a virtual SIM card, that's like not an actual card, just a virtual. But they came out with something that you can use T-Mobile for free for, I don't know, a month or something like that on the virtual SIM card slot. The bottom line is it's a way that you can use your current iPhone, which is on AT&T or Verizon, and you can just try out without having to change your phone number and everything else. You could try out the T-Mobile plan and just see, because, different carriers work better in different cities and different parts of the city. Right. So I just thought it was very clever that they came out with a way that you could basically try it without any downside. And I know that T-Mobile offers rates that they consider more competitive with AT&T and Verizon. So so keep that in mind. If you're shopping around, it's somewhere. I linked to it a couple of weeks ago, but it's a nice option that they came up with.
I'll find the link and put it in because I like that idea. You know, it's just a SIM card to kind of try. Anyway, that's good because one of the big things is the coverage, right? All right, so that's great stuff too. I'll make sure I include that link. And then the last thing quickly, I love you started mentioning this, Jeff. Windows on an iPad. First of all, you said it may surprise you, but there are a lot of ways to use Windows on an iPad, and many people would be like, "Why would I even care about that?" But for a lot of professionals, including yourself, whereas at your workplace you are using Windows, I know a lot of law firms and a lot of corporate entities will do this. They have the ability for people to remotely log into either their computers or a server or something that's at home base. You talked about Log Me In, which I don't see quite as much, but certainly Citrix is something that I see quite a bit. It sounds like that's what you use on your iPad to remotely log into computers that you need at your office. But in addition to that, you also talk about an announcement from Microsoft that came out a couple of days ago.
Yeah. Before we get to the Microsoft, just to Log Me In, way back when, the reason you may not hear about it is because they used to promote themselves more for end users, just individual folks. They decided a few years ago to instead just promote themselves to businesses. So they don't really have plans their plans are expensive for an individual person to get, but they're pretty reasonable. If you've got a business with a bunch of people, you can buy a subscription and have a bunch of people in your office have the ability to log in. But whether you use Log Me In or one of the other solutions, it's just nice to be able to connect to a real computer when you are out and about on your iPad. So I use Log Me In all the time, and I'm a big fan of it. And whether you use that service or a similar one, I just think it's really useful. We, in my law firm, when I first started in the mid 90s, we used Macs, but in the early 2000s, we switched over to PCs. So I've been using PCs for 20 years now in my office, although I still have a Mac at home. And there's lots of vertical software at my law firm that only exists on PC. So you need to use a PC for it. So it's nice to be able to use something like that to just virtually use it. And Citrix does the same thing. But so what Microsoft announced, and this is fascinating, is you will be able to run Windows within a browser, which means that you can run the full Windows on any computer or any device, even an iPad. And it's fascinating to me because at my own law firm, we've been going through this transition recently where it used to be that we had all of the servers that mattered for our company. We had them either on premises or in a data center that we could trust. So things like our email server, our document management server, our everything server. But over time, I think that it doesn't make as much sense to do that anymore because you can now have companies that you work with, like Microsoft or Exchange, for example, they host the server themselves, which means that if there's any problems, it's on their systems and they fix it far more quickly than we can. If there are hacks, if there's a bug that the bad guys are exploiting, they will fix it faster than them telling us about the patch and us installing the patch. So this idea of cloud computing has been going on for years. And at first I was nervous of, we need to have control over our data. But now, the privacy and the agreements are such that I think this is really, I'm very much in favor of cloud computing. But so the next step is, well, why do you even have the operating system on your computer? Why not just run the operating system from the cloud as long as you have a fast enough connection? Now, obviously, this dies if you lose your connection. You want to get that unlimited plan. But we just talked about, but as long as you have access to the internet, which most of us have most of the time, then, you've got Windows anywhere. And it's pretty neat. So now you'll be able to have to run Windows on an iPad. And as I understand it, Microsoft does a good job of working with companies. When they unveiled it, they said that companies will be able to decide, we're going to have 100 computers on our system, and each one of these virtual computers will have, these applications installed and everything else. And so that way a user could just log in, get what they need. People have been talking about this for a very long time as thin computing. And I think there's a lot of promise here. I really do.
Well, and I feel like in a way, it's history coming back on itself. We used to have server client computing, and now, but obviously it's much bigger scale than this. But as I was reading this, first of all, I'm incredibly intrigued, and my prediction is it is absolutely inevitable. This is how we will run our computers, to where we don't have to have big laptops anymore. We can just have a little slate of glass, probably like an iPad, but even weighs less than that. And we'll just access whatever computer that we need from that slate of glass. Now, that's almost like, Star Trek Next Generation and The Expanse and everything kind of, rolled into one. But it's coming, and it is inevitable. And I would just also say, when I read this, it made me think of something that I'm constantly trying to talk about that most people don't know, but this is not unprecedented with Microsoft, because similar to Google Docs, which most people know about Google Docs, Microsoft also allows you to run and access and use full versions of Microsoft Office applications in your browser.
That's
if you
true.
go to
I've never actually
office.com,
done it. Have you tried it?
yeah. Oh, yes, sir. Yeah. I would say now there are still some limitations when it's, when it's in the cloud in a browser, as opposed to downloading the full software, just like anything else, because, it can't do some of the interactions with your local files, that kind of a stuff. But if you have a Microsoft account, even a free Microsoft account, or if you have a subscription to Office 365, you can go to office.com and you can go and try this out. I don't know why more people don't use this, because to me, this is so much better than me creating a document, attaching it to an email, mailing it to you, you save it on your computer, you make changes and mail it back to me, and back and forth, back and forth. We can all get on something like Google Docs, but it's Microsoft Word in your browser. I know, I don't feel like Microsoft has really pushed it as much as they could, and maybe they will continue to do so. But because I have used that and I see how successful that is, I have no qualms that we're literally going to be able to run a full Windows computer inside a browser. And I get pretty excited about that.
It's cool. And, there's two ways. I mean, I think Microsoft might be positioning that this would be your computer, and that's fine.
Absolutely.
But you can also use it the way that I'm currently logging in, that most of the time when I'm using my iPad, of course, I'm using iPad apps and the iPad system. But for that 10% of the time, I just need to dip into Windows. I could just load it up, go, and then I'm done. And it's going to make iPads, and it's not just iPads, any computer that you have, any thin little laptop will be much more powerful. So we are on, in some ways we're not really on the cusp, because they've had gaming services that stream to your computer for a long time. So that the very high end, with all the fancy graphic stuff, is located somewhere else, and you just get the picture in your computer. So, this is tried and tested, but I think it's great. I'm very excited about this coming.
I used to even do this with my Macs. Like I use Parallels, right, which allowed me to run Windows. And I had a little thumb drive, Jeff, that I had a Windows 10 and a Windows XP, and I think I even had a Windows 7 just because of different clients that I was working with. But I could fire up whatever operating system I needed at the time, including the Mac. I could have my choice. Anyway, I just feel like this is sort of a next evolution on that as well. And again, I'm very excited about the future on that. All right. So a couple of bonuses we couldn't get off today with. You had a fantastic link here to how to draw a Peanuts character. I love this. My son and I sat down and watched this, Jeff. It was great. I thought maybe, some YouTuber had kind of put something up, but no, this is from Apple. They are showing you, they have from designers from the Snoopy show, I think is what it is. This is on The Loop, theloopinsight.com, which is a great site as well. But they go in and they show you how to draw. And what I found the most fascinating on this, Jeff, was I thought they were going to use, Procreate or, Pixelmator or Adobe, one of these very high-end fancy drawing programs that I do not have a clue how to use. I don't want to use. I don't need to know. But no, they use Pages. Pages, which is supposed to be
the least likely drawing program.
You go. I'm watching the guy from Apple in this video, which is great, by the way. I'm watching it and I'm like, okay, he's going to pull up, Procreate or something. And he's like, well, most of you don't know, you can go into Pages and you can use the drawing tools in Pages. And I'm like, I love that. That's fantastic. And they do a great job. Plus, they share and they collaborate on the same document. Anyway,
so they have the artist is on the left drawing the Peanuts character because that's what she does professionally. And then the guy on the right is following along. So I posted this link last night and I haven't tried it out yet, but this weekend, I guarantee you, I'm going to stream this YouTube video. I'm going to put it on my iPad, and you know how you can take a video and put it in the corner of your screen. I'm going to have that running in the corner of my screen, and I'm going to try to draw a Peanuts character. And I guarantee you that the Peanuts version of Jeff will never see the light of the day because my drawing abilities are horrible, but I will have fun drawing it. It's great to show you step by step how to draw a Peanuts character.
I was so tempted to call you and say, you and I have to collaborate collaborate on a Pages document live on the show and draw our Peter's character. Okay, maybe next time we'll have a great. Anyway, that was a good link. And then I saw this earlier this week. I love that you included this as your fun little video, as you always do at the end of your post here, because we talked about this specific tip last time or a couple weeks ago.
Pause real quick, Brett. If you're watching this video or listening to this podcast and you haven't watched the video yet, I don't want to spoil it.
I'll pause it. Okay.
But pause this, watch the video. Okay, now you're back. Okay, now we can talk about it without having to worry about spoilers.
Yeah. Go and look. Okay, I may not show the whole thing because I want people to go and see it. It's just so great. It's almost like I wish I had this when I was talking about this tip. From your watch, you can ping your phone, but typically it's like if your phone's in the next room or it's in the car or it's under the couch cushions and you can't find it. And so it's almost like Apple was listening to us, Jeff. I like this. It's like whatever tip you and I are going to share, Apple's going to come out with a video about this. And they did. And this is called Haystack. And you can imagine where the name
there's a
came
good
from.
chance we even used the phrase needle in a haystack. I'm pretty sure we were the first ones to ever use that phrase. And so they must have heard us say it. And here we are.
Absolutely.
But no, it's a commercial, but it's a clever commercial. I love clever commercials. And this one is well done. And even the actor they have doing it is like, you can believe him as this,
absolutely
farmer and stuff like that. And then he's out there finding his iPhone. It's a great video.
It's good stuff. I always thank you for linking to a fun video every time at the end. That's one of the things I look forward to. That's great. Okay, time for In the Know. Let's do a couple of tips. And I got what I can't help myself. I had to do another similar Apple Watch tip, but this is a literal tip. I love this. In fact, I used this last night. My wife and I were able to dump the kids off at a pool party for a couple of hours, and we went to a restaurant which we had never been to. And they bring the check, and at the end, I am not one of those that can quickly calculate the tip. And I hate to pull out my phone and like get out the calculator. So I've got even an easier thing to do. I actually have the calculator as one of my little complications on I think I have Infograph Modular on my face. And I love this. I can pull up the calculator. And if you look right here, you put in the total amount of your check and you tap this little tiny tip button and it will calculate 20% of that amount. And then you can add to the check. And what I love about it, I don't have this on the screen, but once you get into that, you can use your digital crown to go, a higher tip or a lower tip. And then there's another button there that if you're out with some friends, you can calculate what each person would owe for the tip. I love that tip. There's a little hidden thing in there. It's the calculator on the Apple Watch to calculate a literal tip. That's my tip.
I love this tip, Brett. I had no idea that this feature was out there. And when I saw that you were going to talk about this today, I was playing with it last night and it works so well. You just bring up the calculator on your watch, you type in the number and hit tip. And so not only does it show you like what would the tip be, because let me just pause. That part I can usually do. I have this little system in my head that whatever the bill total is, if it's like, $87, I round up to the nearest $10, 90, and then I double that number. 9 times 2 is 18. So that's how I always do my tips that way. So it's a little bit more than 20%. But where I stumble is I then have to add $18 to $87, which, as we're recording this in the morning, I could do that math. But at night, if I've had a glass of wine, I may be a little slower. But your Apple Watch, not only does it show you what the 20% or 15 or whatever percentage it is, but it shows you the total. And then it even has a thing, if you're splitting the bill, it says, that's going to be this much per person if you happen to be splitting the bill. I can't believe I did not know I had this power on my hand, my watch
on your wrist
for all these years. And I'm embarrassed. I did not know. And I will now use it all the time. Thank you.
Good. I know. My wife was so impressed. She was like, I didn't know you could do that. I'm like,
so nice. And like you say, you don't want to bring out your phone because then it's awkward. And like, what are you doing?
I know. And they know what you're doing.
Tap on your watch.
Right. They're like, come on, you can't just calculate a tip. Like they know what you're doing when you pull out your phone. Okay, good. I'm so happy that was good for you.
I love that.
But I like your also link. You were sharing this with me. I shared this video with my wife this morning as well.
So there's this series of YouTube videos that have been out forever called Honest Trailers. They have a narrator that's got one of those deep, in a world where such and such and such and such. And so it's as if it's a real movie trailer showing clips from a movie, but it's actually funny. They're sort of making fun of the movie or making fun of the TV show. They've been around for a long time. The YouTube channel is called Screen Junkies that comes out with these. And they're always very funny. They remind me of, just as a throwback, when I was a kid in the 70s and 80s, I would love it if we were in a drugstore and my parents or my grandparents would let me buy a Mad magazine, because Mad magazine would have their parodies of a movie or a TV show that were always very funny, very clever, often completely over my head as a kid. You got one in your hand there. In fact, I remember there would be movies that I had not even seen because they were rated R, like, you know, the Shining or something like that. But I knew about the movie from the Mad magazine parody. So that same sense of humor that's, you know, clever, playing on the things that don't necessarily make sense in it, they then do that for different shows. So the reason that I mentioned this one here today is because they are making fun of, in a popular way, the Ted Lasso show, which we've talked about before and we love. And it just this week, when the Emmy nominations came out, it had more, it received 20 Emmy nominations, which is the most that a first season of a comedy series has ever received in the history of television. I'm like, oh my goodness. But anything that's good can also be made fun of, and they did a nice job of doing it here. So this was fun. You know, last night I was telling actually my son about this YouTube thing, because it may have been one part of the YouTube he had not heard of yet. And so he and I together watched, they had a funny, the Honest Trailers folks did a funny send up of all three of the first Indiana Jones movies, which is hilarious. I know they've got one on Star Wars. So they do new stuff, they do old stuff. So it's a funny channel on YouTube. But if you enjoy Ted Lasso as much as I do, it's worth watching this little 7-minute, honest trailer. Very funny stuff.
This is good. And it is so, we talked about this. If there's one thing you can use your Apple TV free subscription, hopefully it's still free. I think they're getting ready to stop it, or maybe they have already. Yeah. But it is so worth it to get Ted Lasso. It's just a feel good. And I think the next trailer, the next season is coming out, in a week or two or something like that?
And to be clear, this is talking about season 1. So if you haven't seen season 2 yet, you can still watch this video that we're linking to. And there's no spoilers or anything like that for the upcoming season.
Right. That's good stuff. I love it. Honestly, it is hilarious. And you got to watch the show first for it to really
it has
be
to
funny.
Well, much like I would sometimes read those Mad magazines about something I haven't seen. I actually, Brett, I have actually watched honest trailers for movies I haven't seen, because they're movies that are probably not that great, and them making fun of it is probably far more entertaining, than the actual movie is. So I will tell you, I've actually watched them before for a movie I haven't seen, but it's better if you have seen the movie. It's better if you've seen the movie.
All right. Fun stuff. Jeff, always fun talking with you. Thanks for being on, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Brett. Talk to y'all next week, everybody. Bye-bye.